I want you to close your eyes for a second. Seriously, just for a moment. I want you to imagine the absolute quietest sound you can possibly think of.
Okay. I'm thinking snow falling, maybe? Or that, that high-pitched ringing in your ears when you walk into a soundproof room.
Those are good. Really good, actually. But the author we are diving into today, Julia Cameron, she suggests a different sound.
Let me guess. It's in the title of the book.
It is. She calls it the sound of paper.
It's such a specific tactile image, isn't it? You can almost feel it.
You can. It's that scratchy, whispery noise of a pen moving across a blank page. And in the book we're covering today, which is, of course, titled The Sound of Paper, she argues that this tiny, almost insignificant sound is actually a taking off place.
A taking off place.
Yeah. It's the roar of a rocket engine, just, disguised as a whisper. It's the sound of a life turning a corner.
Which is a pretty bold claim for something as mundane as, writing on a notepad. But you really have to understand the context here. We're looking at a text that she calls a creative companion. Right. And Cameron wrote this during a very specific, very turbulent transition in her own life. She was bridging the gap between a parched, difficult summer in New Mexico where literally everything was drying up, and then this lush green spring in New York City.
And I think that context is so crucial. A lot of people listening might know Julia Cameron from The Artist's Way. I mean, that's the big one, right? The mega bestseller about unlocking your inner creative genius.
The one that's been on shelves for 30 years.
Exactly. But the sound of paper feels different to me. It feels, I don't know, grittier. Is that the right word?
It is grittier. I think that's perfect. If The Artist's Way is about discovering you're an artist for the first time, The Sound of Paper is about what you do when you're a tired artist.
Or just a tired person.
Or just a tired person. It's for when you feel burned out, dried up, or cynical. It's for the second act, or the third, or the 10th.
Right, and that's really the mission of this deep dive today. If you are listening to this and you feel like you're just spinning your wheels, or if you've convinced yourself that it's, too late to start something new, this is specifically for you. Because the core message here is that starting from scratch, facing that blank page, isn't a sign that you've failed. It's actually a spiritual and psychological necessity.
We tend to view starting over as a loss, don't we? It has this negative connotation. We think, oh, I wasted 10 years in that career, and now I'm back at square one.
Back at zero.
Back at zero. And Cameron just flips that entirely. She frames it as a reset, as a vital part of the process. So our goal today is to unpack the very specific, almost mechanical toolkit she provides to navigate those in-between seasons.
Between seasons. I like that.
We're going to look at how to recover a sense of self when you're feeling cynical. And we are going to debunk this persistent, annoying myth that creativity requires you to, quit your job, move to Paris, and wear a beret.
I am very relieved that no berets are required. I honestly don't think I have the head shape for it.
No berets. Just a pen. That's all you need.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts then. Section 1 of our discussion is about the foundations. Cameron lays out 3 pivotal tools. And I want to stop on the first one, because if you know Cameron, you know this term. But I think most people get it wrong.
The morning pages.
The morning pages. Now let's be the skeptic for a second. When I hear morning pages, I hear homework. I hear wake up 30 minutes earlier than I already have to just to, write a novel?
And if you approach it that way, you will fail. I can almost guarantee it. Because that is absolutely not what the tool is for.
So what is it, really? What's the definition?
The definition is rigid for a reason, and it's very simple. It is 3 pages, longhand.
Meaning pen and paper, not a laptop.
Absolutely not a laptop. Strictly in the morning, as close to waking as you can manage. And you write about absolutely anything and everything.
Okay, when you say anything, does she mean creative anything? Like, I should be describing the sunrise or my dreams?
No. In fact, she'd probably prefer you didn't. She says you can whine, you can grumble, you can complain about the cat throwing up on the rug, you can plan your grocery list. It is not real writing.
So it's not for an audience.
It's not for an audience. In fact, she strongly suggests you don't even read it yourself for the first few months. It's not for you to analyze. It's for you to dump.
Okay, but here's the big question. Why? If I'm just writing, I'm tired, I need to buy eggs, my boss is a jerk, for 3 pages straight, how is that a creative tool? I mean, it sounds like wallowing.
It's not wallowing, it's cleaning. That's the key distinction. She calls it a spiritual windshield wiper.
A spiritual windshield wiper?
Think about the state of your brain when you first wake up. What's it like?
It's foggy, anxious, It's already running a list of all the things I have to do.
Exactly. You're cluttered with the debris of yesterday or the preemptive anxiety of today. I have that meeting at 2 p.m. Did I send that email? Am I like old in this light? It's just noise.
Right.
And if you try to create or even just be productive and present through that grime, you can't see where you're going. The morning pages are how you wipe the glass clean before you start driving.
So it's a brain dump. A total unfiltered brain dump.
It's a brain dump, but with a very specific psychological function. Cameron argues that it quiets what she calls the hyperactive Western mind. We are constantly running on this hamster wheel of thoughts. By putting them on paper, you are physically moving the anxiety from your internal loop to an external object.
Externalizing.
You're externalizing it. And in doing so, you're prioritizing the day without even trying. It alerts you to what is actually going on beneath the surface.
That's the part that really intrigues me, the diagnostic aspect of it. Because I've tried this, and I noticed that for 3 days in a row, I wrote, I really don't want to go to this lunch on Friday. And I hadn't even consciously realized how much I was dreading it.
And that's data. That is pure, unadulterated data about your life.
Right. It stopped being this vague feeling of dread in my stomach, and it became a specific fact. I don't want to go. And then I could do something about it.
That's the power of it. We often lie to ourselves to get through the day. We tell ourselves, I'm fine, the job is fine, the relationship is fine. But you can't lie for 3 pages every single morning. Eventually, the truth just slips out.
It has to.
It reveals your weaknesses, sure, but also your strengths and your needs. And this is where it gets a little more mystical. Cameron claims this practice leads to synchronicity.
Synchronicity is a big word. It sounds a bit magical, a bit moo for some people.
It can sound that way, but there's a logic to it. Think of it like this. When you clear the static from a radio, you can finally hear the music. When you clear the static from your mind every morning, you can hear the signals your life is sending you. She says you start being in the right place at the right time because you are actually present in your own life, not lost in your head. You start hearing that still, small voice of intuition.
You're not distracted by the mental grocery list anymore.
You've already written it down. It's on the page, so it's not in your head. You're free to notice the book in the shop window or overhear the conversation you were meant to hear.
Okay, so if morning pages are about sending information out, clearing the junk, then the second tool is about bringing inspiration in. And I have to be honest, this is the one I struggle with the most.
Ah, yes. Tool number 2, the artist's date.
The artist's date. Even the name makes me cringe a little. It feels so indulgent.
It does, and you are absolutely not alone in that. Cameron notes that people are much more willing to do the morning pages because, well, that feels like work. It feels like discipline.
Right, it's hard, so it must be good for you.
Exactly. But tell a busy professional to go spend 2 hours by themselves in a fabric store or an aquarium. They panic.
Because it feels like a total waste of time. I have emails to answer. I have laundry to do. I have kids to pick up. Why on earth should I go on a date with myself?
Because you are an ecosystem. And Cameron uses this beautiful metaphor of stocking the pond.
Stocking the pond.
Think about it. If you are a creative person or just a person who has to solve problems at work, which is everyone, you are constantly fishing from your inner well. You are drawing on your reserves of ideas, energy, and patience.
Okay, that makes sense.
And if you keep fishing and fishing and fishing, but you never put anything back in the pond,
You get a dead pond. You get burnout.
you get burnout. The artist date is the restocking mechanism. It's a once-a-week solo festive outing. And those 3 words are all important. Once a week, solo, festive.
That solo part is the kicker, I think. A lot of people say, well, I went to the movies with my wife. That counts.
It doesn't count.
Why not? Be strict with us.
Because when you are with someone else, you are, on some level, negotiating. You're filtering your experience through them. You're wondering, do they like the movie? Do they want popcorn? Are they bored? You aren't fully receiving the experience yourself.
Your focus is split.
Your focus is split. The point of the artist's date is what she calls self-romancing.
Self-romancing.
Yeah.
There's that cringe again.
I know. But think of it as courting your own consciousness. It's about receiving. Morning pages is sending. Artist dates are receiving. It's an act of filling the well with new images, new sounds, new ideas.
And the examples she gives are crucial because they really lower the bar. It doesn't have to be high art. You don't have to go to the opera unless you want to.
Right. She mentions going to a hardware store or a stationery shop or a fabric store just to touch the different textures.
It's about sensory input.
Exactly. It's about sensory stimulation. It's about following your curiosity and finding enchantment in the everyday. You aren't going to the museum to learn the history of the Renaissance. You're going to see what colors make your heart beat a little faster. It's about mystery, not mastery.
So we have the windshield wiper to clear the junk and the pond stocking to fill the well. That brings us to the third tool, which seems almost too simple to even mention, but she insists on it.
The walk.
Just walking. That's it.
A 20-minute walk. That's the basic prescription with, maybe a longer one once a week if you can. But don't underestimate the physiology here. This isn't just getting your steps in.
I've definitely noticed this myself. If I'm sitting at my desk, just banging my head against a script or a problem, I can sit there for 3 hours and get absolutely nowhere. But if I get up and walk around the block, the solution usually hits me by the second corner. Why is that? What's happening?
It's the link between mind and body. Cameron says that we embody truth. We physically hold our stress and our creative blocks in our shoulders, in our gut, in our legs. Walking literally nudges the creator out of habitual thinking.
There's real science to this, isn't there? I've heard about bilateral stimulation or something like that.
Absolutely. The rhythmic movement of walking left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot engages both hemispheres of the brain. It encourages them to communicate. It's similar to how some therapies, like EMDR, work for processing trauma. You aren't solving the problem by thinking harder. You're solving it by stepping away and letting your body take over the rhythm.
So you're saying I'm not just walking, I'm processing.
You're physically moving through the problem. If you are stuck mentally, get moving physically. It's almost impossible to remain creatively blocked if you are physically in motion for 20 minutes. The change of scenery, the blood flow, the rhythm, it all works together to shake things loose.
Okay, so those are the foundations. The pages, the dates, the walks, a three-legged stool for creative stability. But now we need to talk about where we start, because I think a lot of people want to start at the finish line. They want to start as the successful, polished, fixed version of themselves.
And Julia Cameron says that is absolutely impossible. You have to start at point zero.
Point zero. It sounds like a sci-fi movie title. But in the book, it's really about a kind of radical honesty.
It's the "you are here" sticker on the mall map. That's the best way to think about it. You cannot get to the food court if you pretend you're already standing in front of it. You have to admit where you are right now, with all its messiness.
And she uses this incredible analogy of the pearl to explain this.
Ah, the pearl. I love this story.
I do too, because it totally ruined pearls for me, but in the best possible way.
It is a little gross when you actually think about it. So Cameron visits a pearl exhibit at the Museum of Natural History, and she learns that a pearl is technically a disturbance. It's a response to an injury.
It's not just a pretty gem that grows naturally in an oyster.
No, it forms when an oyster gets irritated. An intruder like a grain of sand or a tiny parasite gets inside the shell. The oyster's bothered by it. It hurts. So, to protect itself, it coats that irritant in layers and layers of this stuff called nacre.
Which is mother of pearl.
Right. Layer upon smooth, hard layer of coating. The oyster is basically trying to soothe the irritation.
So the pearl is basically a beautiful, shimmering callus.
It's a defense mechanism. But think about the metaphor for us, for an artist, for any person. Art and beauty and growth are responses to provocation. We don't need perfect peace to create. In fact, she argues we actually need the sand. We can use the irritants in our lives as the catalyst for the pearl.
That just completely reframes the whole concept of having a bad time. If you're miserable, if you're irritated, if you're heartbroken, you aren't failing. You're just culturing a pearl.
You are in a position to create something beautiful. But, and this is the huge but, you have to admit the irritation first. You can't coat the sand if you pretend the sand isn't there. You have to name the problem.
Which is point zero.
Which is point zero.
And Cameron gets really personal here. She tells this story about her friend in Silicon Valley. This story really stuck with me because I think it describes about 50% of the modern workforce.
Oh, absolutely. The golden handcuffs dilemma.
Exactly. Her friend has the perfect life on paper. She's in California. She's got the high-paying tech job. But she is absolutely miserable. She feels marooned. She hates the mall culture. She hates the prefab buildings.
She's paying $2,000 a month for an apartment she hates, which, by the way, it tells you exactly when this book was written, because that would be a steal now.
Right. But the diagnosis here is so key. The friend isn't just hating the location. She is hating a life without purpose.
But initially, she just thinks she's grumpy. She thinks she's being a negative person. It's a vague, free-floating unhappiness.
It is. But by using the morning pages, by writing down all her complaints, she moves from that vague unhappiness to specific, concrete realizations. She realizes she misses the four-square honesty of the Midwest. She realizes she values history over shiny new convenience.
The complaints become a map.
That is the power of negative writing. We're so often taught to be positive, right? Look on the bright side, practice gratitude. And those things are good, but Cameron seems to be saying, no, for this, be a hater. List what you hate.
Because negativity is a compass. That's the big takeaway. If you can articulate what you hate, it points you directly toward what you love. If you hate the mall culture, it points to the fact that you love authenticity. If you hate the silence of the suburbs, it means you probably love the energy and noise of the city.
Listing what you hate is the fastest way to find out what you love. It feels so backward, but it's true.
To help visualize this point zero, Cameron offers a specific exercise. It's called the hexagon. And I think we should walk the listener through this because it's a great try this at home moment.
Okay, so it's pretty simple. You draw a big circle.
Right, like a pie.
Okay.
And you divide it into 6 pie wedges. Each wedge gets a label. Work, recreation, spirituality, friendship, adventure, and physicality.
6 core areas of life.
Exactly. Then, inside each wedge, you place a dot representing your level of satisfaction on a scale of 1 to 10. The inner rim of the circle is 0 total misery. The outer rim is 10 total bliss.
So if your friendships are amazing, you put a dot near the edge. If your work life is terrible, you put a dot near the center.
Precisely. And then you connect the dots.
Ah.
And the question is, does your life look like a balanced round hexagon, or does it look like, and this is her phrase, a tarantula of frustration?
A tarantula of frustration.
Yeah.
That image is so visceral. You can just picture this spiky, jagged, unhealthy-looking shape.
But once you see the tarantula, you can't unsee it, and it's incredibly useful. You stop saying, I'm just depressed, and you start seeing, oh, my work is at an 8, and my friendships are at a 7, but my adventure's at a 1. You know exactly which leg of the spider is broken.
It turns a mood into a to-do list. It's diagnostic.
It gives you a place to start, point 0.
Okay, so let's say you've done the hexagon.
Yeah.
You've admitted you're standing at point 0. You're ready to start culturing your pearl. But then you hear a voice. A nasty, very particular British voice.
Meet Nigel.
I love that she names him. Nigel is Cameron's personification of her inner critic, her inner perfectionist. And she describes him so vividly. He's thin-lipped. He's British. Sorry to our British listeners. It's just her specific version.
His arms are folded. He's looking down his nose at you, and he demands serious art.
He's the fun police. He snorts if you try to be playful or silly. He says, that's not proper.
But why name him? Is this just a cute literary device, or is there some real psychology at play here?
Oh, there is deep psychology here. In therapeutic circles, specifically in therapies like ACT, that's acceptance and commitment therapy, this is a core technique called cognitive diffusion.
Unpack that for us. What does that mean? Okay, so if you think the thought, I am a bad writer, you tend to fuse with it. You believe it is a fundamental fact about you. I equals bad writer.
It's part of your identity.
It is. But if you can say, Nigel is in the corner again saying I'm a bad writer, you create distance. It becomes an external opinion. It's just noise from that annoying guy over there. You are no longer the thought. You are the one who's hearing the thought.
So you don't have to fight Nigel or kill him.
You can't kill him. He's part of your brain's safety mechanism. He's trying to protect you from humiliation and failure. He thinks he's helping. But by naming him, by turning him into a character, you can choose to ignore him. You can say, thanks for sharing, Nigel, and go back to your work.
She has this hilarious mental image of installing a virus sweeper in her brain for Nigel, or using garlic and crucifixes to keep him out of the room while she writes.
It adds humor to what is usually a shame spiral. It's hard to be paralyzed by self-hatred when you're imagining a tiny, thin-lipped British man running away from a string of garlic. It just breaks the spell.
One of the things Nigel absolutely hates the most is the what-if game. And I think this is a tool we really need to highlight because it's a direct antidote to cynicism.
And cynicism is a huge theme in The Sound of Paper. Cameron has this amazing line. She calls cynicism despair's torpid sister.
Torpid? That's such a great word. It means sluggish, lazy.
It's a lazy defense mechanism. It is so much safer to be cynical and say everything sucks than to actually love something and risk being disappointed or hurt. Cynicism is armor. It keeps you safe, but it also keeps you in a cage.
So how does the what-if game start to dissolve that armor?
It's very simple. You just imagine parallel lives. You make a list. Cameron lists hers in the book. In another life, she's a torch singer, a composer, a flautist.
Okay, but isn't that just escapism? I hate my job as an accountant, so I'm going to daydream about being a cowboy. How does that help?
It starts as escapism, but the goal is excavation. You're digging for clues. It's not about literally quitting your job today to become a cowboy. It's about asking the next question, why a cowboy?
Right. What's the essence of that wish?
Exactly. Is it because you want to work with horses? Is it because you want to be outside all day? Is it the rugged independence? Is it the leather boots?
Is it the solitude?
Once you identify the essence, you can find a way to pull a thread of it into your current life. If you want to be a cowboy, maybe you don't move to a ranch in Montana. But maybe you take a riding lesson on Saturdays. Maybe you just buy the cool boots. Maybe you spend more time hiking outside.
You create these little buds of new growth. You satisfy the underlying hunger without having to completely blow up your current existence.
And Nigel hates that. Nigel wants you to think it's all or nothing. You're not a real cowboy, you're an accountant. The what if game says, why not be an accountant who rides horses on the weekend? It allows for nuance.
Speaking of being an accountant, or rather, treating art like it's accounting, we need to talk about the actual practice of doing the work. Because there's this romantic idea that artists just sit around drinking absinthe until a lightning bolt of inspiration strikes.
And Cameron just completely destroys that myth. She brings up the example of Richard Rodgers, the famous composer. The Sound of Music, Oklahoma, all these incredible, joyful works.
A titan of American musical theater.
A total titan. And she attends a tribute to Rodgers, and the big takeaway is startling. Rodgers wasn't necessarily a happy man. He struggled with depression. He struggled with alcoholism. He wasn't skipping through the meadows, humming a tune.
But he was faithful.
That's the word she uses, faithful. He went to the piano at 9:30 a.m. every single morning, regardless of how he felt, regardless of whether the muse was in the room or not. He treated it like a job.
There's a quote from his wife, Dorothy, that gave me chills. She said, his work was quite simply his life. It wasn't this separate magical thing. It was just what he did every day.
The lesson there is easy does it. That's a slogan from 12-step recovery circles. And Cameron is very open about her sobriety, and she applies it directly to creativity. It's not about a lightning bolt. It's a daily practice. You suit up and you show up.
You lower the stakes. You aren't trying to write a masterpiece every morning. You're just trying to sit at the piano for an hour.
That's it. And your only job is to be faithful to that appointment.
This connects directly to her idea of taming time. Because the biggest excuse I hear, and frankly, the one I use all the time, is I just don't have time. Oh. We all think, I'd write that book if I had a 6-month sabbatical.
And Cameron argues that is a lie we tell ourselves. In fact, she says that large blocks of unstructured time often invite the block. If you have all day to write, you have all day to freak out. You have all day to procrastinate. You have all day to listen to Nigel.
Right, the pressure is immense.
She wrote The Artist's Way, which is a massive, complex, life-changing book in snippets. She was a single mom. She wrote between parenting duties and waiting rooms. Late at night, she calls it using scraps of time.
She emphasizes this idea of portable creativity. If you can write in a doctor's waiting room for 10 minutes on the back of a receipt, you are free. If you tell yourself you need a perfect, silent, candlelit studio with a view of the mountains to create, you are trapped. You have just built a very pretty cage of conditions.
And she has a trick for this, too. A way to get started in those little scraps of time. She says you have to lie to your censor. You have to lie to Nigel.
That's the lie.
The lie is, this doesn't count. It's just a rough draft. I'm just sketching. I'm just messing around for 5 minutes.
It lulls the censor to sleep.
It lulls Nigel to sleep. Don't worry, Nigel. This isn't real art. You can go back to your nap. And that little bit of freedom allows you to actually do the work. It takes all the pressure off.
Now, I want to shift gears to something a bit heavier, but I think it's arguably the most beautiful part of the book. Section 5 of our deep dive is about processing life. Specifically, loss. Because, as we mentioned at the top, The Sound of Paper was written during a time of significant loss for Cameron.
It was a huge transition. She had moved from her beloved New Mexico back to New York City. She missed her horses. She missed her dogs. She missed the land and the sky. She describes waking up in her New York apartment and being wrapped in loss.
That's a powerful phrase.
Isn't it? She's in that space between sleep and waking. And for a split second, she thinks she's back in her old adobe house. And then she opens her eyes, and she's in the concrete jungle. And the grief just hits her.
That feeling is devastating.
Yeah.
So how does she use these tools to handle that? Because I think most people would just pull the covers over their head and go back to sleep.
She uses the morning pages to metabolize the loss. That's such a great medical metaphor.
It is. Unpack that.
Well, when you eat food, your body has to break it down, digest it, and turn it into energy. If it doesn't, the food just sits there and becomes toxic. She says it's the same with emotion. When you experience loss, if you don't metabolize it, it just sits in you. It becomes toxic. It turns into bitterness or depression.
And writing it down is the digestive process.
It's the process of breaking it down into manageable parts, so you can absorb the lesson and excrete the waste, for lack of a better term.
And then she suggests an exercise that, frankly, sounds a little out there, even for her, the doll-making exercise.
It does sound unusual on the surface. She gives a very specific, almost mystical instruction to make a doll that represents the loss or the transition.
This sounds a bit like voodoo, doesn't it? Are we making a voodoo doll of our old life?
It's not voodoo, I promise. It's actually a very powerful psychological technique from art therapy. It's about externalizing the grief. Instead of holding all that complicated feeling inside your body, you make a physical representation of it.
So you give the feeling a body of its own.
Yes. Maybe the doll represents the you that lived in New Mexico. Or maybe it represents the relationship you lost. By making it, by using your hands, you are honoring it. You are giving it form. But you're also separating from it. It's over there, in the doll, and not just inside you anymore.
It aligns with that core idea of making something out of your feelings rather than just sitting in them. It's a ritual.
Exactly. And rituals are incredibly powerful signals to the subconscious that we are moving through something. We don't have enough rituals in modern life for grief. We just expect people to get over it. This is a way to create your own.
This leads us to the topic of drama. Cameron has a very specific and I think very challenging take on drama. She says we often create personal drama. Bad relationships, gossip, money trouble, specifically to avoid doing our real work.
Drama is a distraction. She calls it a sip of creative poison. If I'm obsessing over why Tony is gossiping about me at the office, I don't have to focus on my empty canvas. I don't have to face Nigel's criticism. I can just be a victim of Tony. It's a great hiding place.
It's easier to be angry at someone else than to face your own creative fear.
Much easier. But she also acknowledges that real drama happens, real pain happens. And this is where she introduces the velvet paw. This is one of my absolute favorite metaphors in the whole book.
It's so gentle.
It comes from a song in the play Androcles and the Lion. In the story, the slave Androcles has to pull a thorn out of a lion's paw. It's going to hurt. The lion is huge and dangerous. So he asks the lion to use a velvet paw to keep its claws retracted while he does this painful work.
And the application is that we have to treat ourselves with that same velvet paw.
Yes. And Cameron shares a deeply personal story here. She realizes, to her own shock, that she still has feelings for an ex-husband after he remarries. And that realization is a thorn. It hurts. It's embarrassing. She could easily shame herself for it. Why aren't you over this yet? You're pathetic.
That's the Nigel voice.
That is 100% Nigel. But to extract that thorn, to write about it, to process it, to finally let it go, she has to be gentle with herself. She has to use the velvet paw. If she attacks herself with claws out, the infection just stays in there and festers.
The compassion is so necessary. Because I think we often confuse discipline with self-abuse. We think if we beat ourselves up, we'll work harder. But Cameron's point is that it just makes us shut down completely.
And shutting down cuts off the flow. Which brings us really to the spiritual dimension of her work. And I know spiritual can be a loaded word for some listeners.
It is, but you can't really talk about Julia Cameron without talking about it. She views creativity as an inherently spiritual practice.
And her central concept for this is what she calls taking dictation.
This is the conduit theory.
Right. The idea is that creativity isn't something you do, it's something you allow. You aren't thinking something up from your own limited brain. You are the conduit. You are taking dictation from a larger source.
And whether you call that source God or the universe or the muse or the collective unconscious, the psychological effect is the same. It takes the pressure off.
It removes the ego. If I am just the transcriptionist, I don't have to be brilliant. I just have to be accurate. My only job is to listen carefully and write down what I hear.
She has a specific prayer or mantra she uses to reinforce this. She says, "Dear God, I will take care of the quantity. You take care of the quality."
That is so liberating, isn't it? It completely frees the artist from judging the work while they are in the act of doing it. Your job is just to stack the pages, make the stack, the quality. That's none of your business. That's God's department or the universe's department.
It separates the creator from the critic.
Completely. And there's this powerful metaphor she uses